Live with CDP Sports Talk, a weekly sports and entertainment podcast sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet. Live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and LinkedIn. And on audio via Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, Anchor FM, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Radio Public, and TuneIn. Now, here's your host, Chris Palme.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Season 8, Episode 2, overall 387 of Live with CDP Sports Talk, sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership at 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Auto Mall. Check out barrycullen.com for the newest selection of new and pre-owned GM vehicles, or give them a call at 519-824-0210, or email them at info@barrycullen.com. Live with CDP Sports Talk is on weeknights from 7:30 to 8:30 p.m. Eastern on radio station CKRT, Border City Radio in Windsor, Ontario, playing the best soft rock music of the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And I'm also on radio station WQEE 99.1 FM in Noonan, Georgia, the home of Southern Talk and Sports, weeknights from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern. I hope everyone's doing well on this, Tuesday, April 8th, 2024, and happy Eclipse Day, everybody. And unfortunately, I was at an appointment this afternoon, so I missed the eclipse, and I guess the next one around here isn't around until 2044, 2045. So I hope everybody survived the Eclipse Day, and it's also opening day for the Toronto Blue Jays tonight against those Seattle Mariners at the Rogers Center. And my guest tonight is on his fourth appearance here. His name is Barry Davis. He's currently a sales and lease consultant with Bolton Honda, and he's also the former field reporter with Sportsnet covering the Toronto Blue Jays. And he's also a lead singer for a couple of tribute bands from the 80s called We Ain't Petty and Driven Cars Tribute Band. And I'm looking forward to have Barry on tonight. And we're going to talk a little Blue Jays baseball with him and a little bit about Bolton Honda and maybe his latest upcoming musical gigs as well. Good evening, Barry. How are you doing?
Chris, how are you?
I'm doing okay on this Tuesday, April 8th, the Eclipse Day. Did you survive it, I assume?
Yeah, I survived it. Unfortunately, at the exact time that the eclipse was happening, where I live, out in Bolton, it was all overcast. So there was nothing to see. Nothing to see, folks. Move on. It just looked darker than it should for that time of day. You know, instead of 3:20, it felt like it was like 7:30. And maybe even probably 9 o'clock, because right now it's 8 o'clock as we do this, and it's not dark yet. So it was darker than it is right now. But again, I didn't see it. But the amount of pictures I'm seeing online from people, especially out in the Hamilton area, they got some really, really good views of it.
I guess Niagara Falls too, but there was some price gouging, I guess, up in Niagara Falls and Buffalo with this going on today too.
Doesn't surprise me at all. And, you know, I wish I had got some of those glasses because somebody at my work had a pair. And after the eclipse had already passed, they said, try them on. I put them on and I looked at the sun, and it was incredible. They're really cool. You got to get yourself a pair if they still have them. Save them for the next eclipse, right? In 30 years.
Yeah, I think the next one here is in 20 years. One of my friends, Bud Bailey in Buffalo, said the next one in Buffalo is not for another 100 years, but I don't think any of us will be around then. But yeah, he
speak for yourself.
Yeah, that's true. It was today's technology and medicine. You never know. But speaking of Buffalo, I'm going to be there this weekend to cover the Buffalo Bisons, courtesy of Pat Malacaro. So
Pat's a good man. Tell him I said hello. He's a good man, a great organization. And I urge any of your listeners out there, if you have not gone to see a Buffalo Bisons game, make the trip to Buffalo, because it's a beautiful little ballpark. You get great fan interaction. The players, a lot of them will sign autographs before games. Great views. Chris, you've been there too, right? I mean, it's a great place to watch a baseball game.
Yeah, I'm doing some freelance media work for the team, so I get to talk to Casey Candell and a lot of the players that were down there before they come up to Toronto. So I'm getting hands-on experience interviewing people down there and writing game night stories for the Bisons.
That's fantastic. And a lot of those guys will get it the chance to play in this new stadium. And Chris, I got to tell you, I'm watching this thing on TV, and when you really break it down, the Blue Jays have a brand new stadium. It's just inside of the old shell. But everything about this ballpark, like does not look anything like Skydome anymore. I mean, this is a brand new state-of-the-art park. The seating looks fantastic. The home run fence that they did last year looks great. I mean, Jays have a brand new ballpark. It's just sad they don't have a team that's good enough to play in it.
My only concern, this is playing devil's advocate. Obviously, they needed to renovate the ballpark because it's going on 35 years old. Is it to the point where now with these renovations, are the average fan and family going to be able to take their kids to a Blue Jays baseball game down at the Rogers Center now?
That's a good question. I have a couple of friends that are season ticket holders, and their prices doubled going into this season. Doubled. That's their season ticket. So I'm imagining, but like anything, Chris, it's all going to depend on what happens with this team. They're off to a terrible start. You would never know it by the full capacity tonight and all the cheering going on, but there's a lot of anger out there from Blue Jay fans, and I've seen this before. I saw this in the early 2000s when, the Jays were just a mediocre team, and you were getting 13,000 fans a game, and it looked terrible. And all the excitement that was built up from, the years when I was covering the team up to 2015 and 2016, that lingered on, and it's still lingering, but fans are now fed up because it's just been enough. Too many years of empty promises and not, what they were hoping was going to happen. This team, since I left after the 2016 season, they haven't won a playoff game. And this is the 8th season I've been away from the team, and they still have not won a playoff game. So this could be a beautiful empty stadium, or one where you could get tickets relatively cheap. So if you're a family of 4 looking to go to a game, wait till June or July when they could be very well out of it, and you can get your tickets for probably half price.
Hey, I'm a Tigers fan, and the Tigers started out 6-1, and now they've kind of come back to earth. All I would tell Blue Jay fans is it's only April, and to be fair, Barry, I'm not making excuses for them, but they did have to play a very good Tampa Bay team for 4 games, Houston Astros, a contender every year for 3, and then the Yankees, who are stacked almost every year. So I really think it could have been worse, but I think 4-6 isn't that bad. It's almost 500, and I really. I'm sorry, go ahead, Barry.
I think they're very fortunate to be coming out of this 4-6. And what concerns me, and again, I'm not as connected to this team as I was 8 years ago, but I will say this. A lot of the issues we're seeing with this team in these first, 8-9 games are the exact same issues that they've had over last year. And we knew coming into this season that the team, as it was currently built, was not good enough to win a playoff game. So changes needed to be made. Now, bringing in Justin Turner, that was a great move, and he's looked great so far. But they have not done enough to take last year's mediocre team and make them better. And that's my concern. Now, I would love nothing more than to be shocked and surprised and see this team just start to gel and go on a big run. I just think there are just too many question marks with this team, and I think they're expecting too much of some players that, really aren't capable of fulfilling, a top of the lineup type of team. So that's my rant on the Blue Jays, Chris.
Do you feel, I know you're not involved with the team as much as you used to, Barry, but do you feel Shapiro and Ross Atkins at some point are going to feel the heat? Or do you think John Schneider, as the manager, if this team doesn't, I think they're capable of winning 90 games, but if they don't live up to winning 90 games or even get in a wild card, do you feel that he could possibly be gone at the end of the year?
I think that John Schneider, whether you like him or hate him as a manager, will be the first to go if things warrant that, because Shapiro, he's the darling for Rogers now. I heard they just did all these renovations in this beautiful new ballpark, so he ain't going anywhere. Ross Atkins could be a fall guy, but I think they usually start by the manager. And if that's the case, we're talking, since they've come aboard, they had John Gibbons and fired him. They brought in, who was a guy that was before. They've had this like 3 managers. Yes,
Carlos
that's right.
Tasca. I think Carlos
Montoya.
Montoya.
That was
Yeah.
it. It was Charlie Montoya, right? So now they're on their third manager in the last few years, and there's just not that stability with this organization. So um, I don't see them. I don't see Shapiro going. I do see Schneider going if this team doesn't get things going.
And I know they brought back Don Mattingly. Do you feel Don Mattingly at some point will be a manager in Major League Baseball again at some point?
Mm, that's a tough one. I mean, he didn't have a lot of success with the Marlins, and not every great baseball player can be a great baseball manager. And I don't know if I've seen enough from Mattingly. Like, his specialty is hitting, and this team has really struggled hitting since he's been with the organization. So I'm trying to figure out what it is that he is, he's offering, what his services are, what he's doing to help this team. And I don't know. I'm not around them long enough to know, but I think if Don Mattingly was going to get another managerial gig, he would have had one by now. There are enough managerial changes going on in the off season that somebody would have hired him. So no, I think this is his position. Unless Schneider gets fired, then yeah, I would expect that Mattingly would fill in that position.
One thing that could save the Jays and they get in heat right now is if the Maple Leafs go on a long playoff run. That would take some heat off the Jays until the Leafs are gone.
Oh, if I could tell you the number of years I've said that and we've talked about that in the month of April, it's like, oh, thank God the Leafs are going to go on a playoff run because, take the attention away from the Jays. And one of the really interesting things was in 1992 and 1993, I remember because I started covering the team around that time. The Jays were not drawing crowds, and here this was, the two teams that would go on to win the World Series. And in April and into May, they had small crowds, and people would be all that were at the game would be bringing their transistor radios and listening to the Leafs game. And in the middle of an inning, you just hear this roar from 30,000 fans at the game. And the players are like, what are they cheering? Nothing's going on. And it's because the Leafs have scored a goal. And that's how much the Leafs can help and sometimes hinder the Blue Jays. In a year like this, the way it started out, then yeah, a good long Leaf run would be wonderful.
Are you planning on maybe going to a game or two this year at the new renovated stadium?
I will indeed. Thankfully, my friend that does have season tickets is always good to offer to take me to a couple of games this season. So, and I'm really curious to see how her seats are looking. She's down the third base line up near the top of the 100 level. And she said her seat now is a lot closer to the home plate and lower as well. They've cut the capacity now. I don't know if you heard that. It's under, I think it's under 40,000 now.
39,000 and a change, as per Jamie Campbell. That's down from 50,000 originally. That's a lot of seats they've cut out.
That is a lot of seats they cut. Now, keep in mind, if you go back to the late 90s and early 2000s, the entire 500 level was tarped. They did not even sell seats in those sections anymore.
That's true. I remember those days, and the Argonauts did the same thing when they played there as well. But it looks great on TV, and I did, Barry, yesterday put in for a media pass to do a few games this year down at the old ballpark, and I did have one of the guys down there on my show a year ago, Tim Langdon, real good guy, came on my show and has a great sense of humor. And he does a great job.
Yeah, Tim is a fantastic guy. Tim Langton's been doing the PEA for the Blue Jays for quite a few years now. And if you are old enough to have known the original guy that did it, it was a guy named Murray Eldon. And when Tim took over, his voice was almost identical, and he didn't miss a beat. And he took all the great things that Murray did as a PA announcer, added his own little personality into it. And yeah, he's a fantastic guy.
Tim's in his 19th year. Murray was there 27 years, and the original Blue Jays PA announcer was Bob McCowan.
Yeah, did one season. He did one season, and they decided they didn't want him around anymore. So,
but yeah, Tim does a great job, and this actually leads to my next question, Barry. Just quick thoughts on Ben Wagner being let go by Sportsnet 590 and replaced by Dan Schumann's son, Ben, who's obviously a tremendous broadcaster himself.
Listen, Dan Schulman is probably the best broadcaster I've heard, and I've had the pleasure of working with him when he was just coming into the industry, and I always knew he was going to be a star. And his son Ben Schulman also has a fantastic voice. He's a lot like his dad. Having said that, yeah, I hate seeing people losing their jobs in this industry when they're not doing anything wrong, when they're doing their job, and they brought him in, they groomed him, and of no fault of his own, they just decide to toss him away. The industry can be very cruel. Having worked in that industry, I can tell you firsthand, it can be a very cruel industry. And unfortunately for Ben Wagner, he felt that. But fortunately for him, the Baltimore Orioles picked him up. And I was really happy to see that.
Yeah, he's a tremendous broadcaster. He was actually with the Bisons before Pat Malacaro took over for him. And I think Ben will do a great job with the Orioles. Radio doesn't seem to be like it used to be, Barry. I guess I'm an old guy, but I just miss the days of the late Tom Cheek and Jerry Howarth. And to be fair to Ben, he never had a partner with him to develop chemistry like Tom and Jerry did. And also, too, I think Rogers is one of the only owners of sports teams that still, I don't think, lets the broadcasters do the games on the road with the Leafs and the Jays right now.
That's absolutely ridiculous. It's don't even get me started. It absolutely disgusts me to see what is happening with that. To have play-by-play guys doing the game off of a TV monitor. I was listening to the Jays game on the radio the other day and heard one of them say something like, "Oh, it looks as though the sun is coming out in New York now." And I'm like, you just made that very clear that you're not there, that you saw it on TV, right? And it just, man, yeah, it's not like they don't have the budget to do it.
Barry, and all the time you were a broadcaster, did you ever have to do any kind of play-by-play or anything off a monitor like these guys are doing?
No. I mean, it's like doing highlights, for the people that are on there on Sportsnet and TSN doing the highlight shows. You're literally, calling it off a monitor. Except you have a script. It's not happening before your eyes. You'll have an idea of, what you're seeing on TV right now is, Barrios throwing strike 3 and striking out Rodriguez. So you know what that is going to be, but you're saying it as you're watching it on a monitor. It's always harder when you're live. And then I never did any play-by-play on a professional level, but when I was going to Humber College, I did a lot of TV play-by-play there. And it's crazy to see what's going on in the industry now. And man, we got to talk about something a little more positive, Chris.
Okay, definitely. Here's something positive. Just thoughts on Buck Martinez and how much he's meant to the Blue Jays organization, not just as a player, but as a broadcaster for over 30 years.
I have so much respect for Buck. I had the pleasure of working alongside him for quite a few years and got to know him, as a person more so than a broadcaster. And I've always loved his voice. He's always been a fantastic storyteller. But the Buck that you hear on TV is the Buck that you get to know in real life. And he is just, first of all, he's got the most incredible memory when it comes to his career, when it comes to sports, anything. And he can say, yeah, it was, July 1974 when we were at Kauffman Stadium. And I can tell you it was 104 degrees that day. And I could feel the turf. The heat was coming through my cleats. It was so hot. And he just goes, and it's like, oh, I could listen to him all day. And then, you sit and you have a couple drinks with them, and then those conversations get even better. So, yeah, what a fantastic guy. I'm so glad that both he and Jamie Campbell, have gotten through their cancer scares. And, Buck looks fantastic, and it's great to have him back on the air and doing the games. And him and Shulman, I mean, she's one of the best teams. I'm so glad they have Buck back where he belongs doing color, because not that I didn't like his play-by-play, but I remember being told by a broadcaster many years ago, and I think it was Chuck Swirsky, Chuck Swirsky said, the play-by-play guy's job is to tell you what is happening. The color commentator's job is to tell you why it's happening. And that's why Buck is the perfect commentator, because he knows the why. Dan is the best at saying the what, but Buck can tell you why.
Absolutely. And being a Tigers fan, this year we brought in Jason Benetti from the White Sox. And to me, Dan and Jason and Joe Davis of the Dodgers, to me, are the three top guys. And then the Tigers have Dan Dickerson on the radio, who's took over for Ernie Howell. And great broadcasters make a big difference. And we've been spoiled in Detroit. And I think Toronto has been too, with a lot of great broadcasters over the years.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Tom Cheek and Jerry Howard too, because Tom really gave me the break I needed to get into the business and to get on the air. And I'll never forget what a incredible guy he was, and gone way too soon. And what can I say about Jerry? I mean, you've spoken to Jerry. He's a wonderful, wonderful human being. I miss hearing his voice on the radio, and I always will. And there's just something, I could listen to old highlights of games from, back in the 90s and hear Tom and Jerry just do play-by-play again. And it's just, they gave you exactly what play-by-play needs to be on radio, specifically for baseball, and that is theater of the mind. I remember when working at the Fan, we used to get calls so many times from visually impaired people who say they can't watch the game, but Tom and Jerry make them feel like they can see. And you can't ask for any better compliment than that.
I'm hoping one day there'll be a statue of Tom and Jerry at the Rogers Center. And
there should be.
And I would like to see Jerry's name up on the level of excellency one day. I know Jerry's humble and wouldn't expect that, but I just think Jerry, I think he deserves it for 36 years broadcasting Blue Jay games.
100% agree. 100% agree. There's no reason why Jerry's name shouldn't be on there now. Unfortunately, when you're a broadcaster, you have to die first before they will really recognize you.
That's kind of sad. Hey, Barry, last time we talked, I don't think I told you this. I covered the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame ceremonies last year, and I was able to interview Jesse Barfield, John Olerud, Rich Harden, and Josh Barfield, and it was just such an amazing experience. And I would recommend anybody to go down to St. Mary's, Ontario, to the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame. Just amazing.
Yeah, it is. It's a wonderful day out. They've done some renovations over the last few years, and they've made it state of the art. Really great spot. And you're a very lucky guy, Chris, to have had the opportunity to speak with Jesse. I've known Jesse for so many years, and he was one of my heroes as a player. And it was such an honor to be able to become friends with him after his retirement. And he will do I don't think people realize the amount of good things he does for the community, for kids, for people in need, for fans. To this day, people send him baseballs, and he has no issue at all. Everyone that comes to his house, his wife Marlene goes through all his fan stuff, and he'll sign every baseball and mail it back to whomever the ball was for. He's just that kind of guy.
Because sometimes, you can see somebody on TV, an athlete, and then when you meet them, sometimes they're not what they are. But Jesse Barfield, Josh, who's now an assistant manager, a GM with the White Sox, great guy, and John Olerud, so humble. You wouldn't know he was a Major League Baseball player just from his humility, being down to earth, and he's just so great. And I asked him if he would be interested in coaching, but I think he's happy being out of the game right now.
Yeah. And his family has become a huge priority for him. And but what you said about John Olerud, that's how he was when he played for the Jays. And I was just a young Cub reporter covering the team when he was with them. And yeah, he didn't seem like a baseball player, right? He just seemed like, an average guy, not a ball player. So yeah, real humble guy. And I tell you what, one of the best first basemen in the Blue Jays organization. I put him there, him or Delgado, I'd put as my first baseman, or Griff too. There's three, but there you go. There's your top three. Olerud's in it, and the year where he hit, I think 383, and he was flirting with 400s for the summer.
Yeah, you know what? And these guys, even though I'm a rookie and I'm 52, they treated me like any other media member. And to be honest, Barry, I think in my 20s I probably would have been too in awe and maybe too nervous to interview these guys, but they're just so great to talk to. And I talk to them like I'm talking to you right now. And it's just, I want to say thank you to Scott Crawford from the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame for that
Great man.
opportunity. And there's a couple more former Blue Jays going in this year. Russell Martin and Jimmy Key and Paul Godfrey,
Mm-hmm.
who brought baseball to Toronto in '76.
He absolutely did. Yeah, good. And I love that they do this, and I love that they will recognize, a former Blue Jay who's not a Canadian, and because the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame doesn't necessarily mean you have to have been born in this country. It's that you've done something for this country, and the number of ex-Blue Jays that are in there, and they all come in and they love it and they take it seriously. They don't think, oh, it's just the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame. No, they know what it is. It's a special honor.
And they have beautiful ballparks there, and it's just a great atmosphere. And I'm hoping to be back there this June as well. And again, I would recommend the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame to anybody. Originally, it was at Exhibition Place, by the way, back in the 80s. It was originally there.
Yeah, it was indeed. It was indeed. As was the Hockey Hall of Fame and the CFL Hall of Fame were also at the Canadian National Exhibition.
By the way, I still miss that stadium. And this past summer,
me too.
when I was, I know it's just because my late father took me there in '78 to my first game. But this summer, covering the Argos game, I found where the home plate and the bases were, and I was able to run home plate the first base, and I survived.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's just like, it took me 40
I didn't know
years
you
later.
could do that. So if you go
Yes.
to BMO, there's
Yes.
a spot where you could. Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah,
Because
home
I'm just a few years older than you, Chris, but going down to Exhibition Stadium as a kid, and used to go to Dominion and get the Junior Jays tickets for $1, and we'd sit out in the bleachers. And I bet you there were days you and I were probably in the stands at the same games and didn't even know each other, but we'd get there early. And back then they used to be able to watch the Jays take BP. Nowadays, by the time the gates open, the Jays are already done, which is, again, BS in my mind. But we used to sit in those bleachers and hope that we catch a home run during batting practice. And the memories of that stadium. It was a dump, right? It was cold. If you sat out when my dad would take me, we'd be out on the first base, seats with no backs, the silver benches, right? The aluminum benches. So, but there was just, you remember that feeling the very first time you went to a game and you walked through the tunnel and there it is. All that green and blue, and it's like, oh
yes, my dad used to get us right field bleacher seats or grandstand seats, and also too, I went to a photo day there in 1980, and I still have some of the photos from 44 years ago with Jimmy Williams, John Mayberry, and
you should post those if you haven't already.
Yeah, I will. And it's just, I'm a Tigers fan, but I grew up in Oakville, and my late father took me to my first Major League Ball games at Exhibition Stadium. And I remember the popcorn, the hot dogs, the Coke, and the Seagulls. I noticed at BMO Field, they don't have a problem with the Seagulls like they did at the old C&E Stadium.
No, interesting. You know what? My favorite thing about Exhibition Stadium would be when you'd go during the X, and you'd be in the stands and you see all the rides in the backdrop. But there were times where I didn't have tickets to see a Jays game, and I'd go on the big ride they called the Alpine Express, I think it was. It was just like the big cable cars, and it would go so slow, so I could actually almost see a half inning of the game while I was on this ride, and then I'd go ride it again to see more of the game.
Absolutely. Or I'd go on school trips, and they would have afternoon games. They'd have in the left field corner by the grandstand, they'd have a fence there, and I would peek through it and see some of the games for free. And it was fun back then.
Yeah. Just incredible times. Really good times.
And I want to give a shout out to the Toronto Argonauts too. They've been giving me media opportunities as well, and they're a tremendous organization. And hopefully they can start getting more people into that stadium, because BMO Field is a beautiful football stadium and for soccer too.
See, Chris, you're never too old to start a new career, to start fresh, right? And look what's happening with you and myself. I've 3 years now. I've been working in this industry selling cars for a living, and it's hard to believe 3 years have gone by, because it just seems like yesterday I started doing this.
Absolutely. And we're going to get to that in 1 minute. I just wanted to ask you one final Jays question, and then we'll get on to Bolton Honda for a few minutes. Do you feel this 2024 Jays team with Bichette, Vlad Jr., Springer need to at least get to the ALCS this year to keep this core going forward beyond
Oh
2024?
yeah, oh yeah. That no doubt on my mind. They've shown they can be the wild card team, right? They've shown they can make the wild card, but you got to win a game. You got to win a playoff game. You got to get yourself to a series. And if they don't do that, then to me, yeah, we're talking epic failure. We're talking tear down, rebuild. Everyone's up for grabs.
All right. Well, Barry, can you tell us the latest going on at Bolton Honda, and what are some of your best-selling Honda vehicles currently selling or
Well,
leasing?
the Honda CRV is your best bet right now, and recently it become a vehicle you can also get in a hybrid. And if you see the price of gas continuing to rise every day, I love the fact that I have a hybrid CRV, and I'm getting like Honda Civic mileage out of a CRV, which is fantastic. And the nice thing is that a couple of things. Number one is interest rates are starting to slowly go down. A couple of months ago, you were looking at 7.69% for finance. Now it's gone down to 5.49, and hopefully it will continue to go down. So that's definitely good news. And the other good news is, if you're looking for a Honda CRV, and this was a year and a half ago, I'd tell you you'd have to wait 4 to 6 months to get it. Now we have them on ground. We have a lot of CRVs, so you don't have to wait anymore. You can come in, buy yourself a brand new CRV, and have it 2 days later. So that's one of the great things. And got brand new Honda Accord hybrids as well now. So, and in 2025, which will mean release late in 2024, Honda Civic is coming out with a hybrid as well. So pretty exciting time right now in Honda land. They're also put out their first all EV called the Prologue. It's an SUV, a completely electric vehicle. So yeah, lots going on, and it's always fun, because things always change in this industry.
It's nice that the delays are over, because when I got my new vehicle, I had to wait a year to get it in because of the COVID shutdown and the pandemic, and
Yeah.
it affected everything. So I'm glad the delays are much better. Barry, I got to ask you this too. Obviously, hybrids are important in electric, but if you had a choice right now between a hybrid or a all electric, would you take the hybrid because it's still a combination of both gas and electric?
100%. I am not a fan at all of full electric vehicles. Uh, I predict that in 5 years, 10 years, EVs, full electric vehicles, will become the betas of the videotape world. Um, First of all, the oil companies are not going to let electric vehicles take over and destroy their business. They're too powerful. There will always be a need to get petroleum. So I think that gasoline cars, and there's also still a lot of things being discovered about the actual batteries being used in these all electric cars, and what kind of carbon footprint would they be leaving, and what happens to all these dead batteries. So there's a lot of questions. I just prefer the hybrid aspect of it, and the fact that you don't have to, there's no maintenance involved. You don't have to go and pump it up. You don't have to charge it. You just drive. It charges itself, so you never have to worry, am I going to run out of charge here while I'm on this long drive in the middle of nowhere, where there may not be electric charging stations.
That's another thing too. And would you say the biggest issue with the all electric cars is our climate here in Canada being much colder than some of these warmer states as well?
Yeah, 100%. And as an owner of a hybrid vehicle, I can tell you, yeah, you do not get the same mileage in the cold months that you do like today. Driving around on a nice warm day, that's where you get the real benefit of a hybrid. When it's minus 15, no, you're not getting the benefit at all. You're driving on gas.
Right now, what would you say people are doing a lot more of? You find more people are buying the cars outright, or do you find leasing is up there with buying right now?
Well, it's a very interesting question because with the interest rates climbing the way they have, there's been a lot more people now wanting to just buy the cars out. I've got the money in the bank, I've got a line of credit, whatever, I'll just pay it all out. And for a stretch of time, and there's probably still a lot of dealerships that are doing this, that for their used cars, they'll post a price and say, this is our price, 32,000. That's the finance price. If you're going to pay cash, it's 33,000. So it's like they'll up it by 1,000 and sometimes 2,000. I'm happy to say we don't do that at Bolton Honda, but a lot of dealerships are still doing that. And the reason being is, and it confuses a lot of buyers because they think, well, I'm paying cash. Shouldn't I get a better price for paying cash? Right. And that's the way it is if you go and you're buying a couch or something like that, or a TV. But in the auto industry, whenever there's a finance, the banks give a certain percentage back to the dealership. So there's money to be made there for every car that is financed or leased. So, obviously, it's more of a benefit for a dealership to have a car financed or leased. So that's why a lot of them have bumped up their prices for cash. So it will convince people to finance it instead. Well, what it's doing is it's convincing people to go to a different dealership.
Barry, what are your thoughts again on self-driving cars? And are there a fair number of them with Hondas, or no, not yet?
No, I mean, listen, when you consider that most of the Hondas out there have adaptive cruise control, and lane keep assist, you're looking at pretty close to a self-driving car, right? And I've gone, just taking some little, country roads, and as they curve, if I have the lane keep assist button pressed and I'm in adaptive cruise control, that car is making the turns along the road. I'll never take my hands off the steering wheel, and kids listening at home, never take your hands off the steering wheel. But if you just go light on the steering wheel, you could feel it turning. So, it is kind of but you can't drive it like that, right? But the technology is definitely there, and it's going to be a thing. What I wish they could do is figure out a way to come up with turn signals that work in cars nowadays, because apparently nobody has working turn signals anymore. At least that's my experience driving, Chris, lately.
Absolutely. And
all Hondas have turn signals, and if you're not sure how to use them and you buy a car from me, I will show you how to use the turn signals. I promise.
Absolutely. Hey, Barry, what are some of the most popular colors right now? When I got my vehicle 2 years ago, white, it seems to be white with black trim. But currently at Honda, what's some of the popular colors at Honda right now, Bolton Honda?
Well, black and white are always going to be the most popular colors. We sell more black and white cars than anything. And it's funny because people who buy black cars say, oh, I don't want to get a white car because it gets so dirty, you can see all the dirt on it. And people who buy white cars say, I'll never buy a black car because you see every scratch on it, every mark on it. So those are the two big colors. You always see a lot of fancy colors come around, and one color that has been very popular, it kind of looks like cement. If it's kind of like a grayish, flat gray color, and it's become very popular. I don't know how much longer it's going to be popular, and I find customers either love it, they have to have the car that color, or they absolutely despise it. And for some reason, Chris, the least popular color of all is red. Nobody wants a red car. If you buy a red car, if you love red and you buy a car, and unless it's a sports car, okay, unless it's a sports car or a pickup truck But you're talking like any like the Toyota Corolla, Honda Civic, Nissan Sentra, whatever. If you buy a red car and then you go to trade it in, you will not get as much for that car if that exact same car you were trading in was black or white.
Did not know that. I did have a red car for 12 years, crystal red, and never again because the seagulls seem to be attracted to the color red.
Oh, well, there you go. Yeah. And that bird poop does not do well on there when it stays for long periods of time on cars.
Nope. Hey, and finally, Barry, with all the talk of vehicles getting stolen in the GTA and in Canada and stuff like that, what are some tips for people that are watching or listening to prevent their vehicle from getting stolen or make it more difficult for these guys?
I am glad you asked. There are a few things you can do. First and foremost, do not have your keys near your front door. People will walk up to your house and with their phones kind of do a sense to find a key fob. And if your key fob's near the front door, hanging up, just inside, they're going to detect it. So don't keep it near the front door. Now, if you have no choice but to keep it near the front, you can buy boxes or pouches. And if you go on Amazon, they're really cheap. You put your key fob in it. And what it does is it neutralizes the signal so that if someone is trying to read your key fob, they can't do it. So that's another thing you can do. I also recommend people go to Canadian Tire or wherever and buy the club. Yes, someone can still, if they really wanted your car, they could get in and smash the club and take the car. But the criminals now are stealing very fast. And if there are 10 cars that they're eyeing and 4 of them have the club, those 4 are not going to be the ones they're going after. So I would recommend that. It's nothing's going to 100% guarantee your car won't get stolen, but it doesn't hurt, right? It gives you a little bit more of an opportunity.
Would you recommend getting a tag put on your vehicle as well?
I've heard good and bad things about the air tags. I know criminals are using them now to steal cars, right? They'll see a car in a busy parking lot and they'll put an air tag on it, and then they'll know exactly where that car is when they want to take it. So they can have a negative thing to them as well. But I know people that swear by the air tags as well. It won't prevent your car from being stolen, but it might help them find it. But there are people that don't want their car found because maybe they owe a lot of money on it, or they wanted to get out of that car anyway, and they get the insurance payout, and bing bang boom, they got themselves a new car. So yeah, theft is I've never seen it like this. It's getting worse and worse, and cars are being. I had a customer that works at a hospital and called me and said their car got stolen from the parking lot in the hospital. It's like, come on, people, enough's enough.
Wow. And one other thing I was going to ask you, Barry, I've heard some people talk about it. They think maybe we should get rid of the fobs and go back to traditional keys.
It's not a terrible idea. You can have all the key fob information, but instead of a push button, you have a key. That's the thing, right? If your key fob has been read by someone else, and you want to change those key fobs, it's an ordeal, and it's not cheap, right? So really, do we really need to push the button to start the car? Like, seriously, is that something what we have to do now? Why not have a key, right? I'm not saying you can't have your remote start, all the other features, right? Put all the other features there. You don't need the key to open the door, but you need a key you need a key to start the ignition.
Finally, Barry, what is a fun fact about a Honda, a Bolton Honda, or a Honda vehicle? And can you just tell us maybe a little bit of your upcoming performances for We Ain't Petty tribute band and Driven Cars band?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a fun fact about Hondas, I'll tell you a fun fact about Hondas is that in 2024, both the Honda CR-V Touring, which is their top model, and the Pilot Touring have rear camera washers, which is the coolest little feature, because when you put your car in reverse in the winter and
Yes.
your camera's all mucked up, well,
Yep.
these Hondas have a little dial you do, and water, and boom, you got a clear camera. I love it. One of my favorite features. It used to be the heated steering wheel. Now it's that. So there you go. As far as performances go, yes, actually my band Driven, which is a tribute to the Cars, is playing in St. Thomas, which is out near the London area.
Yes.
You've probably heard of that. Yeah. So we're playing at a place called the Whiskey Rocks. We're there Saturday, April the 13th. So we start at 9:30. So Driven, we'll be doing 2 sets of the best of the Cars. And then our other band, the Idiots, are going to come out and do a good set of great 80s music after that. So it'll be a fun night. Well, that's what we've got coming up next.
Do you have a website or information where people can buy tickets online?
Yeah. So yeah, websites are kind of not really our thing anymore. But if you go on Facebook, our Instagram, and follow Idiots Dance Band. So the number 80 ITS Dance Band. And you can also follow We Ain't Petty on Facebook and Instagram. Now, We Ain't Petty are going to be playing in Port Stanley in about 2 weeks' time or 3 weeks' time, sometime I should have my schedule in front of me. But you can find us. You can find all of our upcoming shows on Facebook and Instagram.
And hopefully I'll get to hear you play this summer, because every time you've been in Cambridge or Guelph, something's come up. So fingers crossed I finally get to hear you play this summer.
Yeah, I'd love that, Chris. And thanks for having me on the show again. It's always fun.
And finally, where can my audience find you? Where is the best social media site for them to follow you on?
At Barry Davis _ I think is my Twitter handle. And Instagram. Just type my name in or any of the bands, and that's the best place to follow.
And at Bolton Honda, just to plug your dealership.
Yes. Yeah, you can email me. Well, email's hard to explain. Yeah, just look me up. Go to boltonhonda.ca. That's the website. You can look at our entire inventory there as well.
All right. Well, Barry, hey, I want to say thank you so much for giving me 40 plus minutes of your time today. It was great to reconnect with you on this April 8th, 2024. And I want to say thank you so much again for coming on. I really enjoyed talking to you, Barry, and we'll definitely keep in touch with you.
Yeah. Thanks, Chris, for having me on. I appreciate it.
Okay. We'll talk to you soon, Barry. Thank you. Have a good night.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, guys, that was season 8, episode 2 with Barry Davis, the sales and leasing consultant with Bolton Honda. And he was also the former Sportsnet field reporter with the Toronto Blue Jays and a former radio personality on the Fan 590 in Toronto. Before we wrap up our show tonight, guys, I was at Crossbody Pro Wrestling this past Friday night, and I did an interview with one half of the Crossbody Pro Wrestling Tag Team Champions. His name is Travis Moore. He's from St. Catharines, and I'm going to play this clip of my interview with him, courtesy of my YouTube channel. Here, radio host of Live with CDP Sports Talk on WQEE 99.1 FM and also on CKRT Border City Radio here in Windsor, Ontario. And tonight I'm at Crossbody Pro Wrestling at 132 North Iroquois Street here in Cambridge. And I have a special guest tonight, and he's one half of the Crossbody Tag Team Champions of the World, Travis Moore. Travis, thoughts on your match tonight?
Tonight it was us versus Matt, Grant, and Crystal Moon, me and my partner Grizz. It's a tough match, really tough. My chest is red, if you can see that, and it's I love a challenge, so it made me really happy to be able to do this match. And I've known Matt and Crystal my whole career, so almost 5 years now. So I'm stoked with the result and everything, being able to defend my belt and Grizz's belt. And yeah.
What makes Matt Grant and Crystal Moon, the defending women's champions, so dangerous as opponents?
That's a good question. For Matt, I think it's his It's the fact that he's been in wrestling for so long, not even just as a wrestler. He was also a referee for a short bit, and he used to do podcasts at shows. He was around wrestling for so long that he got to experience and learn just by watching. And Crystal Moon, I'd say, is unpredictability and ruthlessness. She's very in your face, and that's something I respect about her. You got to respect it. You know what I mean?
In 100 years.
Congratulations on winning the crossbody pro wrestling tag team championships. Who did you guys defeat, and what was that like becoming the champions?
We defeated Dynasty, so the team of Mikey Truth and Jackson Roy at the anniversary show. And we felt like we didn't properly beat them because Mikey kicked out last second and like literally right after 3. So I was a bit angry because I didn't feel like we didn't properly beat them. But the next time we get to wrestle them, I'm really excited to finally actually properly beat them.
Thoughts on doing these open challenges and not having time to prepare for whoever comes out?
My thought on that is really just like we need to keep ourselves on the top of our toes and make sure we're at the top of our game. So seeing opponents come out and people that we don't predict come out, like our first open challenge, it was Quiet Kids. So Nilo Reyes and Laurel Cassidy. I'm decent friends with Laurel. I respect the heck out of Nilo. I don't want to swear. And like seeing them come out, I was like, oh, this is exciting. Like this is something different, you know? Like, and then this week it was Matt and Crystal, and I was like, this is awesome. We just keep this going, and like we're gonna just keep doing it until someone manages to be tough enough to beat us, you know?
It's one thing to be contenders and one thing to be champions. Just tell us how much difficult it is being the champion instead of being the contenders in wrestling.
I think the cliche really is there's always a target on your back, and it's completely true. The second you walk in the locker room, me and Grizz, we travel from different ways, right? I'm from the Garden City. He's from the Schaumburg area. So when we get in, we go in one at a time, but we see everyone staring at us as we walk in because we know they want those belts. Every tag team guy wants those belts. Even the guys that are doing singles right now, they want to find someone and just take the belts off of us. And we were the same way. We were doing single stuff before we became a tag team, and we're just like, Grizz is one of my best friends. So we just decided the one day we're like, you know what? We should totally tag, and like we'll figure out it as we go along. But the second we prove that we can do this, we're going to win those tag belts, and we're not letting go of those anytime soon. What's
your biggest strength as a tag team, in your opinion?
Our big strength is probably that's a really good question. Our biggest strength, I think, is our diversity between us. Grizz is like 6'4", 300 something pounds, right? I'm 5'3", 150 pounds, right? So it's a very different vibe between the two of us, and we have very different styles. Obviously, he goes for more of the big man stuff. I go more of the submission striking route. Seeing the difference really helps us strategize even in that moment. You know, if you watch tonight, we realize that, oh, okay, they're smaller than us. Both of us, we can just kind of power them around. But if it's like a bigger guy, I'll be like, all right, Grizz, you go in there, you do all the power work against them, try and, you know, have 2 antlers going against each other. And then when they need me to come in and outspeed them, I come in, I do my job. So it's our diversity, really.
And finally, who were some of your wrestling influences that got you into wrestling? And quick thoughts on WrestleMania 40 this weekend in Philadelphia.
Okay, so I'll start with the first question there. My biggest influences, it's like people you wouldn't expect. Edge is a really big one for me. Edge is my favorite wrestler of all time. I would say Gresham is another big one. Mysterio is an obvious one. Brian Kendrick, Paul London, all those guys, like the smaller guys. And then there's Edge, and I was a big fan of Undertaker as a kid too. Like I love people like that. For WrestleMania 40, I'm really excited about it. I'll be honest. I think I watched last WrestleMania with my girlfriend Gia, and we were kind of disappointed at the end with Cody losing to Roman. And then we were like, oh, it has to be this year. Like, Cody has to win that belt, right? It doesn't matter if Rock's there. It doesn't matter if Seth does something. Cody needs that belt. And then Roman can do his own thing. Maybe the bloodline will beat up on him because he loses the belt. You never know. And, like, that's the most exciting part about wrestling, I think, is you never know what's going to happen.
And finally, what do you prefer, heel or babyface? And where can my audience follow you on social media and your next match?
Okay, so firstly, I prefer like you're asking me what I prefer being. I prefer being a heel because I'm more in control of the match, and that's not me being like greedy. It's just like more I feel it's easier for me to strategize what's going on because I don't have to follow the rules really, right? I still follow the rules, but I do it a little bit more sneaky when I break the rules, right? And then for social media, I changed it recently, so give me a second. Instagram is at Travis Moore LMM for Little Mer Machine, and for Twitter, it's _the Travis Moore. And my next match will be next Saturday in Hamilton at the Germania Club for Pro Wrestling Ontario. Guys that got me my start in wrestling. It'll be me and Justin Newhook, the Newfoundland Nightmare. And it will be a fun match. That'll be somewhere where you can see me work a little bit more as a heel.
All right. Well, Travis Moore, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it. Continued success in your wrestling career.
Thank you very much, sir.
Chris Palmer. Okay, guys, that clip was courtesy of my YouTube channel. And if you haven't subscribed, please type in Chris Palme Live with CDP Sports Talk, hit the subscribe and like notification. And I want to say thank you to my 294 subscribers. I'm hoping to get to 300 very soon. Again, that was Travis Moore, a talented pro wrestler with Crossbody Pro Wrestling out of Cambridge at 132 North Argyle Street. They do a great job there, and you can go every 2 weeks there and you can see wrestling for $10, or their big events, which they have once a month, are $25. But it's great entertainment, and I want to say thank you to Travis Moore for giving me some time after his match. And he's also one half of the tag team champions again. So check out Crossbody Pro Wrestling. They're on Facebook, and it's a great organization as well. And speaking of wrestling, WrestleMania 40, Cody Rhodes finally completes his story, defeating Roman Reigns. And I think that from what I've seen, I haven't seen all the cards, but there was quite a number of titles changing hands as well. But the big one was Cody Rhodes ending Roman Reigns' 1,316 days as the WWF champion, or the WWE champion. It's no longer WWF, WWE Championship. By the way, guys, speaking of that, it's Monday, April 8th. The NCAA title game is on tonight at 9:20 Eastern. Purdue, making their first appearance in this game since 1969, are looking for their first ever national championship in basketball. And UConn, who won last year's championship, is looking to go back-to-back and win their 6th overall. 9:20 with Iron Eagle with the call. I'm going to have to go with the champs. I'm going to go with UConn to beat Purdue, but you never know. In a one-game winner takes all, the underdog can win, and Purdue is obviously huge underdogs. And you know what? When you think of Purdue, you think of the football program, but tremendous year for their basketball program. First time in this game since 1969, and looking forward to watching this game as well. Also, guys, next live with CDP Sports Talk, sponsored by BarryCullin.com, is going to be Wednesday, April 10th at 6:30 p.m. Eastern with my special guest, Jack Moore, his second appearance on my show. He is the radio play-by-play announcer for the Ontario Hockey League's Oshawa Generals, the #1 seed in the East. They just came off a big victory over the Barrie Colts, eliminated the Colts in 6 games. Oshawa's first time in the second round of the playoffs since 2019. And they also have former Storm goalie Jacob Oster in net, who's reinvented him and changed his career with Oshawa since coming over from Guelph. So Jack's going to come on and talk about the 23-24 Generals, their 12-game winning streak before the playoffs started, and their 6-game opening round victory over the Barrie Colts. And the Generals will start round 2 at home against the Ottawa 67s, I believe, this Friday night. So I hope you guys can tune in to Live with CDP Sports Talk this Wednesday, April 10th at 6:30 with Jack Moore, a talented young broadcaster, and does radio play-by-play voice for the Oshawa Generals. So I'm looking forward to that as well. Live with CDP Sports Talk is also now available on radio station CKRT Border City Radio in Windsor, weeknights from 7:30 to 8:30 p.m. Our website is CKRT bordercityradio.com. Again, 7:30 to 8:30 as well. Also, Live with CDP Sports Talk is a sports and entertainment talk show hosted by yours truly, Chris Pame. Is also on weeknights from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern on radio station WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key, the home of Southern sports and talk, the heartbeat of Atlanta. Our radio station's website is wqeefm.radio12345.com. Live with CDP Sports Talk is live streamed on these platforms: YouTube, Facebook, Twitter /X, Twitch, LinkedIn, and now available on Instagram. Also, you can check out my website at beacons.ai/Chris D. Pame. Live with CDP Sports Talk is sponsored by Barrie Cullen Chevrolet Dealership at 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Auto Mall. Check out barriecullen.com for the newest selection of new and pre-owned GM vehicles, or give them a call at 519-824-0210. Tell them Chris Pame sent you, or you can email them at info@barriecullen.com. Speaking of Barrie Cullen Chevrolet, right now it is truck month down at Barrie Cullen Chevrolet, and right now you can 0% financing for up to 60 months or up to $10,000 off a select Silverado 1500 crew cab pickup trucks. More details at barriecullen.com. You can also follow me on TikTok. Yes, I am a content creator on TikTok. You can follow me there at Live with CDP. And again, I want to say thank you to my 2,000 plus followers on TikTok. StreamYard is the official live stream provider of Live with CDP Sports Talk. If you're into webinars or podcasting, such as yours truly, check out StreamYard.com. And if you're a business that does a lot of webinars or podcasting or live streaming in general, check out StreamYard.com and contact the sales department for more details, again, at StreamYard.com. Great customer service there, and the IT guys are always there to help you if you need some assistance. Live with CDP Sports Talk, the audio version is available on these platforms: iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, Spotify for podcasters, Apple Podcasts, Breaker, Pocket Casts, Radio Public, Spotify, Castbox, LinkedIn, Pandora, and Tuned In. Finally, you can email or text Live with CDP Sports Talk at cpame19@gmail.com, or you can text the show at 519-820-7188. Comments, questions, suggestions, any kind of feedback would be greatly appreciated. And finally, guys, as you know, I volunteer in Cambridge at the Cambridge District Humane Society at 1650 Dunbar Road in Cambridge, Ontario. You can call them at 519-823-7722 or visit their website at cambridgehumanesociety.org. Again, if you're looking for a forever pet or friend, again, check out the Cambridge District Humane Society, and you can call them again at 519-623-7722 or their website, CambridgeHumaneSociety.org. And they're having a monthly raffle they're at now, 50-50. You can get more details on that on their website as well. Also, guys, I want to give a shout out to Dr. Vicky Chan. She is a dental surgeon with Stone Road Family Dental at Storrow Mall, 435 Stone Road West in Guelph. You can call her at the dentist office at 519-836-9333. Sorry, 519-836-9330. She's been my dentist for over 10 years. She's very trustworthy, competent, and she does a great job. So again, check out Dr. Vicky Chan at Stone Road Family Dental at Stone Road Mall. And I want to say thank you to Dr. Chan for doing some work on me today, on my teeth today as well. And that's about it. I want to say thank you to my guest, Barry Davis, sales and leasing consultant from Bolton Honda, for coming on here today, and also talking a little bit about the Toronto Blue Jays as well. And the Blue Jays right now, at last count, were winning 4-0 over Seattle in the 5th inning. And unfortunately, my Detroit Tigers, who got off to a 6-1 start, look like they're going to lose another game tonight. I think late in that game, they're down 7-2 to the Pirates. So the Tigers got off to a great first week of the season, but they're having struggles scoring runs, and their pitching hasn't been as good. But it's a long season, so I'm not going to count them out yet. And the Blue Jays will be fine too. The Blue Jays, I think, will still win 90 games this year. I don't think they'll win the AL East. I think Baltimore, number 1, Yankees 2, Blue Jays 3, Tampa Bay 4, and the Boston Red Sox 5. But again, thank you to Barry Davis for coming on here. And also, guys, again, next live with CDP Sports Talk, again, brought to you by BarryCullen.com. This Wednesday, April 10th, again at 6:30 p.m. Eastern, with Jack Moore, the radio play-by-play announcer for the Ontario Hockey League's Oshawa Generals. And that's about it. I hope you guys enjoy the NCAA title game that's going to start in a few minutes between UConn and Purdue. And I hope you guys have a great evening, and we'll see you back here for Season 8, Episode 3 of Live with CDP Sports Talk on radio stations WQEE 99.1 FM and CKRT Border City Radio in Windsor. Have a great evening, everybody, and we'll talk to you Wednesday night with Jack Moore from the Oshawa Generals.